This is the Reservation System template at SharePointDashboards.com. This is a template which allows you to create a reservation system in SharePoint so that users can do things like reserve conference rooms. This isn't limited to conference rooms. This could be any resources. So it might be vehicles or equipment or anything that you want. When you first look at this template, the first thing you can do is check out the different theme options. You can see there are lots of ways to do the colors. So you can set that up to look the way that's going to match up with your environment best. And all these are configurable by just clicking on the different drop-down options according to your preferences. So that'll give you a preview of what it's going to look like in SharePoint. In the bottom corner, you're going to see instructions which tell you exactly what needs to be done. This template does require some initial fields to be created, not very many. It's pretty easy to do, and those are described very specifically in the instructions. So we need a date time field, for example, a reserve by field, and so on. All the instructions are here. One of the fields is a calculated field, which will give us the end date time automatically according to the length of the reservation. So be sure to check out those instructions when first applying the template, and then you're going to be ready to go. In SharePoint, I've already created my fields and applied the template. So these are the fields already set up on my list, and you can see what the raw data looks like before applying the template to the list. Once I've applied the template, I'm going to see my records like this. They're set up in chronological order. And then you can see different kinds of resources. In my case, I've got some vehicles and conference rooms on here. I do recommend that you use filter views so that you can see a view per resource. That'll make things a little bit easier to go through. And I can make updates to these reservations by just clicking the edit button in the upper right. So if I click on this edit button, it'll just take me into the edit form, and as an example, I'll change the reservation on this to be 2 hours long instead of 1 hour. And you can see that will update real time on the dashboard. The bar that you see for each reservation helps you visualize the schedule in terms of resources to see when things go out and when they come back in, so you can see if there be an overlap, and that shows on the bottom of each reservation. You can see there's also an all day option which you can select if this is going to be gone for the entire day. So you either select the number of hours or you can just pick all day if it's something that's going to be used for the entire day, in which case you see a full bar at the bottom of the reservation. We can see who is the last person to make an update to this record, and then also the name of the person that it's reserved for. So we've got all the key information on that top row. For any reason you need to delete a reservation, you can just click on the X button in the upper right. Now with the reservation system, we do want to be able to block double bookings, meaning we don't want people to reserve the same thing at the same time. Otherwise we get a problem. So any reservation system should be able to handle that. When you look at the template instructions, you're going to see that there's a link to the description of setting up the workflow. So that is provided on the site, and you can do this in Power Automate. So in the SharePoint dashboard site, this will open up a link to this, and there are instructions with screenshots to show you exactly what to do to set up that workflow and be able to block double bookings and avoid that specific situation. We're going to look at that in the last part of this video. If you just need the template and you don't need to do the workflow part of it, you can skip this part. Otherwise, I will talk to you about the specific details of this workflow. So we're going to create a Power Automate workflow that's going to run every time a reservation is either added or modified in this list. That's our trigger. In the second block, we're going to create a variable to let us know whether there is a schedule conflict on the new record coming in. So initially, we will set this to false. And then at this point, we want to get all of the reservation records in the list for that calendar day and for that specific resource. This requires a filter query string, and this is described in detail in the written instructions. There are a couple of formulas here, so you'll want to look at the written instructions, which will help you out with that. Now we're going to be in an apply to each loop. So what we're doing is comparing the reservation somebody wants to make against all the existing reservations. And the first thing we want to check is see whether or not there are anything with the all day setting. There cannot be two reservations with an all day setting for the same resource in the same day, and therefore that would be a conflict. So if that condition happens, it's going to set our variable for schedule conflict to true. If not, it's going to go into the next part of the workflow, and we're going to do the next check, and that is checking whether the start time of the reservation is overlapping the existing record. So if that condition is the case, it's going to say there's conflict. And then there's one final check, that's for the end time of the reservation. Very similar. It's checking whether the end time overlaps an existing reservation time. And if it does, then we're going to set the schedule conflict to true. That's the trickiest part of the workflow. So now we're ready for the last part, and we're going to go ahead and respond depending on whether a conflict was found. And if there is a schedule conflict, then we'll go into the yes branch of the workflow. The next thing we want to know is whether this was a newly created reservation or one that was updated. And in this condition check, we're checking version number to see if version number is 1. On a new item, version number is going to be 1. So for a new item, we want to delete that reservation. Somebody's made a mistake and made a double booking, and we need to remove that from the list. So that's the first thing we do, is delete that item. And then, of course, we need to email the person who made the reservation to alert them to this problem so they can go back in and make a correct reservation. Alternatively, if this was an updated reservation and there is now a conflict, we do not want to delete the reservation because that may cause problems. We instead just want to warn them that there's now a conflict based on the change they made. So similarly, we want to send an email to them to let them know that there was a conflict. And that is it. That's the entirety of that workflow. So if you want to go through written instructions, those are linked from this reservation system template. This is available at SharePoint-dashboards.com, and this is part of the subscription package. If you've not yet used this site, you can go in here to sign up for free and have access to 21 templates. And then if you do the subscription, you can access all the templates, and there are hundreds of templates available. I hope you found this useful. Good luck.